Торжественная церемония вступления Владимира Владимировича Путина.
He emerged from obscurity to become the undisputed leader of the largest country in the world. From humble beginnings to having his writ hold sway in domed city Moscow, capital of modern-day Russia. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin never missed an opportunity to mold destiny to his advantage.
Прошу вас принести присягу народу России.
Уважать и охранять права и свободы человека и гражданина.
Vladimir Putin was born in 1952 in the Soviet city of Leningrad, still recovering from the shock and deprivations of World War II. Most of the population had died, 1 million of them starved to death. Putin's father had been badly injured in the war. His mother had nearly died of starvation. Living in a rat-infested apartment with 2 other families, Putin's family had no hot water, a broken-down toilet, and little or no heat. Putin's early life was spent in the Russian Dvor, the tough-working communal courtyard where he learnt how to survive by becoming street smart. Early in life, he was attracted to Sambo, a martial art developed by the Soviet Red Army that combined judo with wrestling. Later, he shifted to pure judo and became a master. On his 60th birthday, he was awarded the 8th Dan Black Belt, the highest rank in the sport, becoming the first Russian to have the honor. Vladimir Putin studied law at Leningrad State University, graduated in 1975, and immediately joined the Soviet intelligence service, the KGB. He served as a foreign intelligence officer for 15 years before Lieutenant Colonel Putin retired from active KGB service in 1990. He returned to Russia to become Pro-Rector of Leningrad State University with responsibility for the institution's external relations. In June 1991, Putin became a deputy mayor of St. Petersburg and was put in charge of the city's Committee for External Relations. He officially resigned from the KGB in August. And then onwards, his growth in the world of politics gained true momentum. Vladimir Putin moved to Moscow to work in the Kremlin in the department that managed presidential property. In March 1997, Putin was elevated to Deputy Chief of the Presidential Staff. In July 1998, President Boris Yeltsin first made Putin the director of the FSB, the KGB's domestic successor, and soon after, secretary of the influential Security Council. Yeltsin, who was searching for an heir to assume his mantle, appointed Putin Prime Minister in 1999. The street kid from Leningrad, who had learned judo to hold his own, was now well on his way to becoming the world player that he was destined to be. The Russian leader had inherited a country humiliated by the breakup of the Soviet Union. Through strength of vision and shrewd political maneuvers, he restored Russia's status and global power. Putin even regained some of the territory lost when the USSR broke up. He became a darling of nationalists the world over when he defied America and stood his ground.
Putin understands that so many burgeoning and blossoming countries today are facing pressure from what is a traditional unicentric world order. Some people call it the Western hegemony.
When eras change and then new powers rise like China, India, Russia, etc., then the original post-World War system created by the Americans, because they were the victors, that order is now in decline.
Within months of Vladimir Putin becoming Prime Minister, Boris Yeltsin resigned as President of the Russian Federation, and Putin became the acting president in his place on December 31st, 1999.
При осуществлении полномочий президента Российской Федерации.
Putin served 2 terms as Russia's president before stepping down to assume the position of Prime Minister. Russia's constitution then prohibited anyone from serving 3 consecutive terms as president. During his first 2 terms itself, President Vladimir Putin worked on restoring a sense of national pride and perception of Russia as a global power. At the same time, his policies and economic reforms saw Russian economy experience significant growth.
They concentrated on certain key areas to bring the economy back on track, because they had lost a lot of their GDP because the new states had come up. They had industries in many of these states. So all that had to be recreated. And I think it was a very firm kind of industrial policies that they followed, that Russia slowly sort of got back on its feet.
Президент Российской Федерации.
In March 2012, Putin was re-elected as Russia's president once again. A constitutional amendment extended the presidential term from 4 to 6 years. Since then, Putin has won 2 other consecutive elections by impressive margins each time to remain president of Russia, a post that he still holds. Strong and decisive, Putin has endeared himself to his supporters within Russia and across the global south as someone ever willing to challenge the hegemony of Western influence and globalism. Vladimir Putin, the boy from an impoverished background, has by his own efforts today become the ultimate symbol of Russian national sovereignty.
Don't make us do to you what we've done to Russia, the most sanctioned country in the world. More than 23,000 sanctions levied by the Euro-Atlantic Alliance against Russia. Why is that? To bring it to its knees so that the population becomes so dissatisfied that the population does the work of Washington and achieves the regime change. But it hasn't worked in Russia. It will never work, this kind of external interference.
The president of China, the world's largest manufacturer, Xi Jinping became a confirmed admirer of the President of Russia. A week after being appointed as President of China in early 2013, Xi made his first state visit overseas, choosing to visit Putin in Moscow.
China is the factory of the world. China is the leading trading partner for more than 50% of the world. And some people say that China is the factory of the world fueled by cheap Russian energy.
In 2022, after Putin met Xi in Beijing for their 38th summit meeting, Russia and China announced a no-limits partnership, and along with India, Vladimir Putin became instrumental in stitching together a powerful alternative for the world to follow.
China buys a lot of oil and they are neighbors. So they have pipelines, they can build pipelines. So I think the proximity that they have in terms of their land connectivity helps them to build various other things. Plus China is a huge manufacturer. So they buy a lot of things from China, and because of the sanctions, they have to gravitate towards China to fulfill their economic needs.
Парад! Под государственный флаг Российской Федерации!
In the quarter century that Vladimir Putin has been at the helm of affairs in Russia, his foreign policy has primarily been guided by the objective to promote a multipolar world in which a coalition of other major powers, with Russia at the forefront, would contain the influence of the United States and its Western allies. This strategy envisioned a concert of major powers that included not just China but India as well.
The world is changing, just as when the Chinese leadership was in Moscow on one of the last visits. And they both agreed that the global south, the Russia, the India, the China, and so on, in this burgeoning family, they are the ones who are driving this change in the world today. Why? Because the world wants it.
Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi holding hands as they entered the room to meet Xi Jinping was strategic messaging, a signal being sent out loud and clear. At a time when the rest of the West had been coming to slowly accept that the US was no longer a reliable ally, this was visual evidence that a new alliance was emerging on the other side of the world.
What we are watching is a more tactical rather than a strategic kind of a meeting ground between these three countries, and that is happening because of what is happening in what President Trump is doing. He is doing things which is making these countries feel that they should hedge against that kind of unpredictability that is coming from across the Atlantic.
Vladimir Putin's visit to India in the closing month of 2025 is not just about an annual bilateral meet. It is about Russia under Putin continuing to strengthen ties with countries outside the Western world. In context of US-led sanctions, Putin wants to see Russia increase trade with India to $100 billion by 2030. An indication of the importance Putin puts on India ties at a time when Moscow's links with the West are shrinking. For India, Russia has always been a trusted defense supplier and a strong supporter in global politics. "36% of our defense capabilities are still, of Russian origin, and I think we are going to discuss with them many other things, like oil, for example. Although the sanctions are there will be other ways of trying to get the oil. Then the economic pillar has become more important because of how to trade without the dollar. The de-dollarization of trade is something that is uppermost in everybody's mind. Over the years, Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, and Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of India, have developed an appreciation for each other that goes beyond the required protocols of their offices. The bonhomie between them was on display at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, China, in September 2025. The two shared a hug and even a ride together on their way to their bilateral meeting. President Putin waited for Prime Minister Modi so that the two could ride together in his car. They reportedly spent another 45 minutes in the car even after reaching the meeting venue.
I'm not aware of India ruffling Russia's feathers, and I'm not aware of Russia ruffling India's feathers. This is a special and strategic partnership, and it will stand, as it has already done, the test of time.
"25 years since he first became president, Vladimir Putin remains the unchallenged ruler of Russia, shaping the nation's political, military, and geopolitical fortunes in his vision. Never since Stalin has another leader of Russia been in office for so long and with such an iron grip on destiny. Putin, whose rise to power was forged in the shadow of the collapsing Soviet Union, has ensured that Russia's military strength is restored. He has centralized political control, and he has successfully challenged Western hegemony. As per internal surveys, the charisma and popularity of this self-made Russian leader is such that whenever one thinks of Russia, one remembers Vladimir Putin. His name is now synonymous to that of the country that he administers.
Здравствуйте, товарищи!
But Putin's reign is not without controversy. While his supporters firmly believe that Putin united Russia by creating an ideological framework for national unity, his detractors compare him with Stalin, alleging that he subverted democracy to suit his purpose. Depending on one's views, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, at age 71, is one of the most hated or one of the most admired leaders of 21st century world.